Welcome to the Ricecast. I'm your host, Dan Pigsley, and with me, as always, is my friend and yours, Pastor Willie Rice. Pastor, how are you today?
Doing great, Dan.
Good. How was your weekend?
It has been a busy couple of days.
Yeah.
A little March Madness in more ways than one. A lot of traveling and speaking. But it's good to be back in Clearwater and looking forward to this weekend being back home at Calvary.
How was your time up at Brooklyn Tab? I know you're up there. You've been up there a couple times, I think, this year, or Jim was down here.
No, this is the first time this year. I was there maybe in November, I think.
That was it, yep.
So we're going up quite a bit, seems like. But what a great privilege. I love going, and as we've talked about on the podcast, it's just been a joy to get to know Pastor Jim and Carol in such a real way, and Brian and Susan and so many of the others who are leaders there. And it was a great weekend. We taught there on Saturday, big seminar for a couple of hours, and then preached there twice on Sunday. And the Lord blessed. The Lord was with us. It was a great day, and we saw many people respond to the message, and flew home on Monday. So great weekend. I know it was a great weekend here at Calvary also, but it was a great weekend in Brooklyn.
It was. It was a great weekend here at Calvary. Just a lot of fun unpacking the text this weekend, which we'll talk a little bit about today. And but I will say, you were telling me earlier this week when you got back that Brooklyn Tab, their services are like 2 hours plus long.
It's
right?
about a 2-hour service,
right.
And so and you know, if you've read Fresh Wind, Fresh Fire, you know back in the early days they had 4, and of course we do 3 at Clearwater, so it's not like an easy day here. But they're 2-hour services, so we do one at 9, and then the next one starts at noon, and because you have a little bit of gap in between there, and we go from noon to about 2, and so it's a full day, and you know they're volunteers. They're there the whole time. The singers, people that are hosting, they do such a great job. They have an incredible culture. And, you know, by the time we got back to the hotel room or something, it's probably 4:30, something like that. And maybe later. And we were pretty wore out.
I bet.
But in a good way, a good way.
Well, it's very interesting to me because I know, you know, our service at Seminole, we end at like 12:15, and then, we hang out about 45 minutes to an hour, and then I'm in my truck, I drive up to the Clearwater campus, and this past Sunday, had my phone on while I was driving, don't tell anybody, but the Gators were playing at 1 o'clock, so you missed a little bit.
Well, the Gators, I think they tipped off at like noonish, something, noon to it, and I told Pastor, I said, you know, I'm going to need somebody to give me signals during the service, which is not true. I know. But as soon as the service was over, and I could kind of breathe, and you shake a few hands and everything, I thought, I need to check the game.
Yeah.
Did we win? And I was a little scared, and I checked the game, and I pull it up. I'm standing there right off to the side, and it's tied with 2 minutes left. I'm looking at the score on my phone, and I'm going, oh, my. So then we get up to Pastor's office, and I pull it up, and I watched the last 2 minutes in Pastor Jim's office. And fortunately, the Gators were able to pull away and win there.
That was great. And Pastor Jim's a new Gator fan from what I've heard.
He
right?
has. You know, he is one of their key staff members is a UF grad.
Right.
And so this is how it kind of started back, I don't know, whenever. He would say something about how much he loved the Gators. He found out I was from Florida. And so then we got to talking, and he's like, well, that guy's crazy. I mean, he's a fanatic. And then, you know, so I bought him a sweatshirt and some things. And so now every once in a while he'll ask me about how the Gators are doing. And he's many people don't know he is a basketball player from his youth. He actually played college basketball and played in the NCAA tournament. So I'm sure he was a pretty good athlete back in the day. He knows basketball.
I love that. Well, again, it was a fun weekend. Gators did pull it out. Now they have Maryland coming up.
Yeah, Sweet 16, 7 SEC schools for those keeping track, which is a record. You know, 14 got in the tournament, which people were saying, maybe too many. Well, half of those got to the Sweet 16.
Right.
So that tells you a little something about just how deep the conference was this year. And so 7 SEC schools in 16 spots. But it's always a lot of fun. And so next week, in fact, you know, I think it's Thursday, Florida will play again. We'll see how far they go. If you win 2 more, and you're in the Final Four. So
I think
we'll see.
They got a good team. We got a good team this
year. Connecticut really pushed them. It was that was a scary game.
Well, I was telling people like the UConn, they just have championship blood in them. You know,
I think so.
Back-to-back years, they're ready.
Their coach is kind of annoying, but he's a good coach, and he's a little annoying. But I got home now, watched it. You know, it's easier to watch it when you know the outcome. You kind of are more relaxed, and so I watched a little of it last night when I got home from the thing.
I love that. Well, also during March Madness for basketball is also the NCAA tournament for wrestling. I don't know if you're able to watch any of that. That's one of my favorite things.
I did not watch it, but I saw some clip of it because I think the president was at part of it, and I think that's why I saw it. And then there was a big upset apparently.
Hendrickson, yeah.
And I don't know anything about it, but apparently that was a big deal.
It was huge. So the guy who was wrestling won the Olympics. He got the gold medal in the Olympics before, and so. But yeah, he's a lieutenant, I think, in the Air Force. Just a very cool story. A lot of cool stories.
Yeah.
So a lot of believers. A lot of guys that a lot of basketball guys you'll see. Want to thank the Lord, but a lot of these wrestlers like they
that's
speak
great.
out like
That's good.
Speak about Jesus. It's very very cool to see.
That's very good.
But that's my past and all that stuff. But that's it was a fun weekend of sports, fun weekend at Calvary, fun weekend at Brooklyn Tab. Now we are in the last week of March, and it's an exciting time for Calvary because we have a celebration coming up this Sunday, which is really cool for our church.
Right. A lot of people may not know if they're not directly involved, but again, we have 6 campuses now. Safety Harbor came on in January as the 6th campuses in this little family of churches. And but a year ago, this week we launched the 5th one, which was the Calvary Espanol, our Hispanic campus. And so we want to congratulate Pastor Vladi Vasquez and Calvary Espanol, the leaders there, Saul, who does the worship, and some great people there. And they're doing really well. They're running somewhere around 100 people, 80, 90, 100, something like that, which is really great, fantastic for just being at it a year, really growing, reaching some people. And they meet here at our Clearwater campus. They meet at our worship, what we call the chapel. They meet in that at 11 o'clock. So we have an 8 o'clock service in the chapel, which is for everybody. And then at 11 o'clock, we have the Hispanic service in the chapel. And I'm trying to pop in there Sunday to say hello, and Pastor Vasquez has asked me to come in there and do that, so I hope to see everybody there. But we're really excited about that ministry. It's a great ministry, and I think great future potential for reaching Hispanics here in our area. And if you know some people that need to be in a Spanish-speaking service, certainly invite them to our Clearwater campus at 11 o'clock, Calvary Espanol meets.
Well, and Pastor Vladi, he has done just an incredible job.
He's done a great job.
That. We had everything that happened with the hurricane, and he was, there with you, boots on the ground at the apartment complex right around here, and he was able to serve so many families.
It's a beautiful thing about having so many kinds of ministry that we have here. And again, all of our campuses, this is one of the joys of working together, is that everybody can feel like they're a part of this. And one of the things by having this Hispanic campus is when there was such a catastrophe right down the road from our Clearwater campus, a lot of those people were displaced in that apartment flooding, which was national news, and we talked about it back in the fall. But a great many of those people were of a Hispanic background. Some were not even English speakers and so forth. So the Calvary Espanol was there. I mean, they were on the spot. They were serving. They were working. They built some relationships through that. They've brought some people to church and led some people to the Lord through that. So, God uses all those things. But it's just great, just like our missions ministry was already up and ready to go. We didn't have to invent it. They were just ready to go. Laney Gibney did a terrific job during that season of helping us serve those in need. And that's because of what Calvary is doing in our missions, our X-150 vision, and all of that. It's when things happen, you have things in place that can make a big difference.
Right.
So thanks for the Calvary Espanol for the great job they've done.
Well, it's just I think Calvary Espanol and the things that we have done as a church, it just pours out of the heartbeat that I think that was established so many years ago, that we are just a missional church. I have a couple questions on that. Where did that come from? Like, you have obviously we have all of our campuses, and that's a great ministry we have, but we also have an incredible missions department, not just locally, but around the world as well. Where do you feel like that drive, that really stemmed from?
Well, I think hope comes from the Lord. I think a healthy church is a Great Commission church. It is rooted in the mission that God has given His church to be a Great Commission people. And as we know, the Great Commission people is next door and around the world. It's next door and the nations. So it's about reaching our area, and inviting people and sharing our faith and serving people, but it's also meant to be cross-cultural. The Great Commission, embedded in that, is this idea of making disciples of all nations. And the word, as we have unpacked in the past, is the word we get our word ethnic group from. Nations change their boundaries all the time. There's a lot in the news about that right now. Nations changing their boundaries. But there are ethnic groups. Missiologists call this ethno-linguistic people groups. They share a common physical ethnicity, a common language, a common culture. And you try to chart and identify how many groups there are like that around the world. And it's about reaching different groups of people. But embedded in Jesus' command is to go to all nations. Acts 1:8, Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth. It's embedded in there. So when sometimes I'm asked, well, why are you going cross-culturally? There's so many needs at home. Because it's not one or the other. It's not even one and then the other. It's all of the above, all at the same time. Now, there is a special affinity for what's at your front door because that we're human beings. We know of our community. We know of our, just like we care about our homes. That's not unnatural. That's natural. But there has to be a deliberate, intentional, strategic aim at how do we carry the gospel across cultural boundaries. If it hadn't been, it would have never come to us, right? So you've got to do that, and you see that in the book of Acts when it goes to Samaria. You see that in the book of Acts when Peter has his vision about carrying the gospel to the ends of the earth. So embedded in this idea of the Great Commission is it must spread across the cultural barriers, across the cultural boundaries. So I think just as Calvary has been a church that wants to be rooted in a truly healthy view of what a church is, missions has always been a part of our church. I mean, it's been who we are. It's part of why we cooperate with other churches of like faith through even our Southern Baptist networks. It's the primary reason we do that. We want to support missionaries around the world and at home. And then but it's not just about shipping money off. It's about calling people up, raising leaders, and personal engagement. Treasure follows your heart. So we want people to be excited about it. So from the very beginning, we have been sending people, and of course, in the last several years, as X150 in the last decade, that when we looked at X150, we wanted a vision that was more than about one big church getting bigger, but how do we multiply, and what does it look like to embed an Acts 1:8 vision in the strategic vision of our church? And that's kind of where X150 came from. So that part of that goal was planning 150 churches. Well, 100 of those, we said from the beginning, will be international. Well, we've gone way past that, and we have already hit our 150 number primarily because of our international engagement. And so that's where it comes from. I think, ultimately it comes from Scripture. It comes from our history. But in the last decade, that idea that we wanted to be a multiplying church, well, that drove us to missions, to multiplying leaders, and it's a big part of who we are at Calvary.
And it's an incredible piece. It's honestly one of the many reasons that drove my family here to Calvary to see how we do missions as well. Because when I grew up, we went on a lot of mission trips with our school, and we did stuff with our youth group. And I always, even in my young mind, thought, okay, we're coming in, we're building a chicken coop or building a house or doing an orphanage, and it's great work. But we were never partnered with individuals.
You're in and you're out.
We're in and out, but that's not how we do it here. And I love Pastor Paul Colton. He does a fantastic job. When he sends out teams, we're going to meet someone.
Yeah, the in and out teams can have a value. That's good. It's just you can be a little more strategic. Right. And sometimes what goes under the guise of missions from American churches is not as helpful as it could be, and sometimes it can even be hurtful because I've talked to people overseas or in church plants. Groups come in, they're glorified tourism groups, really, and I'm all for taking a trip and having a fun, but they'll come in, and then obviously sometimes the missionaries or the church planters spend more time toting people around and acting like a tour guide than actually being strategic. I've even there's some funny stories of guys you talk to where groups will come in and honestly, what they do is counterproductive. It's like they end up, changing a ministry focus to accommodate some group. Well, we don't want that. What we wanted was we want to build partnerships internationally. And again, it wasn't just about sending a check; it was about building a partnership. So we have partnerships that are part of our X-150 vision in Guatemala, particularly, and in some of the other places that we were at last week. We have them, as you know, in South Asia. We have them in a variety of places because we've sent now some of our own people out. Right now, I think today we have like 14 people who are serving overseas full-time with the IMB, our International Mission Board, out of Calvary. So we have 14 of our people are actually on the field today. It's been as high as 17, but it fluctuates. Some come and go. But we have 14, I think Dr. Colton told me, right now on the field in missions. So our trips that we've been taking are many times partnering with our own people who are involved in church planning. So you don't just drop in and out and do a project, but you coordinate with those people. Hey, what can we do to help you? What can we do to move the ball down the field in your work? And then we send teams that are designed to do that, not just to do glorified tourism, but there's work going on before we get there. There's work going to be going on after we leave.
Right.
And what we want to do is be kind of an accelerant for the period of time we're there to help make that work more effective.
I love that. Well, just this past week was spring break,
Yep.
and a great time for a lot of people see that as a great time to kind of unplug from school, maybe go on a vacation, which is great. Me and my family, we took a couple days off and just kind of enjoyed our family time. But some families saw spring break this year as an opportunity to serve together. And so we had, I think it was 6 total trips that
Yep.
I know of that went out this past spring break. And a lot of them, I think we had 84 people on these trips. I think over 60 of them were students.
Yes. Again, as you said, spring break. So obviously you are going to be heavily leaning into students. We have a lot more coming up this year, and we can talk about some of those maybe in a moment. But we had 6 over spring break, heavily leaning to students. And that's a lot of our CCHS students, but also some of the students who maybe are not in our high school, but they're part of the Calvary student ministry, maybe from a campus or they're part of another school or homeschooled in our area. So we had some of them, and we went 6 different trips. My wife was part of the leadership team for a group of young girls going to Uganda. That was fantastic. I've heard all about it. She needs to come on and talk about it. Sarah Colton was there. So, and then we had about 5 or 6 girls. I don't know how many, but they were just fantastic. I think most of them were CCHS, maybe all of them. And then, but we had a team in Uganda where we have a missionary. Shannon Rogers, out of our church, is one of our missionaries in Uganda. She's doing fantastic work. They were sharing the gospel, doing so many great things. We had a team in Guatemala. We had a team in, in New York City. We had a team in London. We had a team in Boise, Idaho. And then we had an evangelism team go to a big racing event here in Florida at Sebring. But 5 of those teams all of them left our immediate area, but 5 of them left our state. 3 of them left the country. Yeah. And the team in London is working with Zeth and Hannah Hill, who is our missionaries there in London. Again, out of our church, they've sent, working with the IMB there, and our team was working with them. I crisscrossed the group in New York. We should have synced our dates better, but we weren't didn't know that. But they were there right about the time I was there. They were leaving about the time I was coming in. But I spoke to the guy, and that's a partnership that's really come out of Brooklyn Tab. We don't have a missionary per se in New York, although we do through our network. But it's a ministry they have there, and Peter DeRuda and his wife, they have a wonderful ministry that is for urban ministry. They house people very safe, very well done. Like a dorm area, so they can house them, and they train them in urban ministry. And we had a great group go to New York City. So we have a missionary serving in Boise, Idaho, with some people groups there that have settled in that area. They didn't just go to see the mountains and go to Idaho. No, there's the strategic work going there. So great stuff. Hundreds, I don't know, you may have the numbers, hundreds of gospel shares.
Yeah, I actually do have the numbers. So from what Pastor Paul sent me, he said there was 560 conversations about Jesus in all those trips.
Yep.
and 14 of those people put their faith in Christ,
Yep.
which is a very, very cool thing. And I think a couple of them were in London, which has been very hard for our teams lately.
Yeah, yeah. You don't. London is tough soil. It's a radically post-Christian environment. My wife was there in Uganda, and that's been tough. It's hard there, and she was talking about that. But they have been just faithfully sharing, primarily targeting the women there in the village. They had several professions of faith there. And, God knows the hearts and God knows the response. The harvest belongs to Him. Our responsibility is to share the gospel, and over 500 gospel shares. And I just want the people of Calvary to let that sink in for a moment.
Right.
Okay, because, maybe you needed a week to rest, or maybe you were home or whatever. It was an ordinary week for you. But because of your giving to X150, because of your faithfulness, it doesn't happen without that. Right. We had over 84 people being sent out. Most of those were students. And you know what that means? They're the next generation of people who will be serving, whether home or abroad, on mission. Those are life-changing experiences. Years ago, I had a guy ask me, Dan, why do you send people on mission trips? And I go, well, you've never been, have you? He goes, well, how'd you know? I said, because you wouldn't ask that question if you had been. If you've ever been, and you know how life-transformative those experiences can be. I think everybody ought to go on a periodic basis and go cross-culturally and to serve and to share the gospel in difficult circumstances. Well, 84 people did last week. 60 of those are students. Think of the life change that's going to bring. Mm-hmm. Think not just of the 500 gospel shares that occurred last week, but the impact of that for weeks and months and years to come. Who will be the next Zeth and Hannah Hill? Who will be the next Shannon Rogers serving in Uganda? Zeth and Hannah in London. And we've got so many others. We have people like Sam and Mariah that came, and they're serving in South Asia, and people like Andrew and Emily, and people that are serving around the world, people like Shelby in Greece, among people groups that Cheryl and I got to visit last year, and on. I know I'm leaving some out, but that impact of the 60 people who went, students last week. Okay, there's the next generation. Right. And some of those will be pastors. Some of those will be youth pastors. So when we talk about X150 champions, and it all goes together. Mm-hmm. And I just think that this is a great week to celebrate, even as we think about the one-year anniversary of Calvary Espanol, all the things that are happening under the banner of missions locally, nationally, and internationally at Calvary.
And that's the beautiful thing. We've talked the past 20 minutes just about our international missions, which is an incredible ministry, but locally, we're about to open up the Compassion Center. Yep.
That's another big highlight. And in fact, we are days away from getting the keys. Mm-hmm. As we talk. I mean, maybe they already got them, but we're literally within days now of getting the keys to the Compassion Center. Now, people, again, just to refresh everybody, when we went through our last X150 Vision Initiative, one of the things we wanted to do was a compassion center. And we've been talking about this, and we have done smaller things through the years. We had a Hope House and some other things. But the compassion center was an idea of kind of bringing a hub of activity together around the counseling ministry, around foster care and adoption ministry, and we were going to build it here on the Clearwater campus. There's land here, and so we were going to do that. But again, all of our campuses are giving, because this isn't about Clearwater campus. It's really, we open an area-wide kind of catalyst for churches, even outside our immediate Calvary network. Mm-hmm. But when the Safety Harbor campus came on board, and God opened that door, they had a 10,000 square foot building that they were not even using. They were allowing another church to use it, who has since found even better home. So we went into that 10,000 square foot building and realized we could renovate that for much less than building a new building. And it's only a couple of miles from where we were going to locate it anyway. And then the more we looked at it, honestly, it was actually, God has a better plan. We have a plan. God has a better plan. It not only saved the Lord's money, but it may have been a better location in some ways. It's a little off of the, just that it's not on this busy intersection here at Clearwater, actually makes that kind of an environment for counseling and therapy and adoption and offices actually a little better. So we're going to have space for a number of our partners who are working in the sphere of adoption, foster care, and counseling. Our Baylight Counseling Center, which is for years, Joshua and Christy Walk have been on our Clearwater campus. They're going to be having offices there at the new Compassion Center. So it is a win, 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 win. It's a win all the way around. And you're right. It's going to be a huge thing. Again, it's not about just the Safety Harbor campus. That's where it happens to be located. But whether you're at Seminole, whether you're at Crystal Beach, whatever campus, East Lake, whatever, we are going to be able to volunteer there, serve there, and know that there's great ministry being done to help children in need through the Calvary Compassion Center. So I don't know about the open house date or anything like that. I'm sure we will announce it very soon. I don't have a date on that, but as soon as we're in it, maybe get some furniture in it and start. We'll have a big day, maybe an open house, invite people to come up and see it and walk through it because we want you to be able to rejoice with us.
Right, and it's exciting. It's very exciting to see that come to fruition. It's something I heard about when I first got on staff here. And now it's like it's in front of. I walked through it a couple days ago, and it's a beautiful piece.
They've done a great job.
They really have.
And big thanks to Tom Price, by the way, who serves on as an administrative pastor and really focuses on these projects that seem to be coming one after the other, after the other, after the other. And he does a great job. So, again, kudos to Tom for his good work and the people that worked on that. We're grateful. Andy Park is our contractor that works with us. He's a member here, and Deacon, his team does a great job. So it's always a partnership. Grateful for the Safety Harbor people to have the vision that allowed us to go in there and do this, and we're just thankful to the Lord for opening this door.
And so that's really the whole drive of what we've talked about today is we here at Calvary, we have so many opportunities to serve in the church, outside the church, even across the world. And so if you're listening today, I would even challenge you, find a place to plug in. The Compassion Center is a great place to start because it is local. We work with organizations like Man Up and Go. All Pro Dads is something that I've gotten involved in. Back to Pastor Vladi, he leads an All Pro Dads at Eisenhower Elementary. I help him out with that. It's an incredible ministry. It just there's so many opportunities for our people to serve. So what would you say to our people who are just on the fringe, what should I do? How do I get plugged in?
Well, I think it starts right there at your campus. Talk to your campus pastor, talk to the missions. Every campus pastor has a connection hub and information center, and start talking. Hey, I'm interested. Where can I serve? And we try to have days in which we highlight the opportunities to serve, but really any Sunday you can just walk up, find out information. We have our membership intensive coming up. People who go through that learn ways in which you can connect to serve. That's we'll just slide that one in there because that's coming up this weekend. If you're interested in making that commitment to membership, we talk about that. That's Saturday, I think, here at the Clearwater campus. So, but I would just say start at your campus. Talk to your leaders there at the Connection Hub, your campus pastor. You can get some information, I'm sure, on the website. And just find a place to start serving. There are going to be many, many opportunities. And by the way, we have a lot of mission trips coming up this summer, I think.
We do. Pastor Paul, when I told him we were talking about this, he sent me a whole list. So we have a trip to Brazil this summer, to Poland, to Guatemala, back to Uganda, and there's a few others as well. If the Lord's tugging on your heart for these things, reach out to Pastor Paul or even Sarah Colton at scolton@calvary.us, and they will get you all the information you need. You can also find it on our website. But for me personally, I grew up in church. Now being here at Calvary, I think every believer should go on a across the pond mission trip once every 2 years. I think it's a big thing for us to remind us of how good the Lord is, but also put your hands where they need to be.
It kind of tunes your heart a little bit. And it can be challenging and taxing. God has a way of providing the resources if you'll make the commitment. And I'm sure I don't have the website, the exact address, but if you go to calvary.us, you'll be able to find our missions page and get some of that information. Probably all those trips are listed there. And again, if not, call the office. We'll find that for you. Or just talk to your campus connection hub. We'll get that information for you. Those things are publicized pretty regularly. But now would be the time maybe to even see if there's still space on those trips. I think there are. There would be space. So find out about that. Get signed up. Even now, I know it's already mid-spring, but it's not too late to get plugged into one of those trips.
Right. Well, Pastor, I've appreciated it. I think it's the first time I've gotten to sit down and talk like real missions about you, so with you. So I just love to hear the heartbeat of our church and just see all the opportunities that we have here to serve and just seeing what the Lord's done, not just in this past week, but for the past, 150 years. So. Yeah.
And here's what I would say to everybody. Being on mission is we can't compartmentalize it. It's not a department in our church. It needs to bleed throughout our church. It's not on one campus. It bleeds on every campus. And the same thing in our lives. It can't just be compartmentalized to compassion for the poor or working with orphans or going on a trip. It needs to be a part of our life. We are on mission believers. So here's what I want to say to everybody now, just a couple of weeks from Easter. Hey, be on mission. Be on mission in your neighborhood. Who needs to be invited to Calvary? Who do you need to share the gospel with between now and Easter? Like, what is it, a couple of weeks now? So let's be strategic about between now and Easter, who needs that invitation, who needs that conversation. Again, one of the beautiful things about going on a trip is you just are sensitized to it every day. You go and realize, okay, today we're doing this. And we get home and then we get back into, I got to go to work. I got to mow the grass. I got to. But we're on mission. And the story of Jesus and the Samaritan woman, remember, while they were going to get sandwiches in town, Jesus saw the woman. And he later told them, the fields are ripe for harvest. You just have to look. You got to see it. So who is it in your neighborhood? Who it is in your workplace? Who is it in your family? Who it is in your oikos? That is your sphere of influence. We talk about that principle that right now needs that gospel conversation, needs that intentional invitation. Well, that's what being an on-mission Christian looks like. It doesn't mean just booking a ticket to Uganda. Good. That we need that. We've talked about the value of that all day today. But boy, if you want to do that, but you don't want to have a conversation with someone on your street, what does that say?
Right.
You haven't gotten it yet.
Right.
So let's be on mission right here in Clearwater, Seminole, Eastlake, Crystal Beach, Safety Harbor, among the Hispanic community. Let's be on mission believers over the next 3 weeks. We got a big mission trip between now and Easter, and it's right here in Pinellas County.
It is. And at your campuses this weekend, we will actually have cards for everybody. You can take as many as you want, but they're Easter invite cards. And I would encourage you, take a stack, pass them out as you're at the gas station in your neighborhood. Like, these are a great icebreaker. If you've never had a conversation inviting someone to church, take this card, hand it to your waitress, and say, thank you for serving us today, and I want to serve you.
You never know.
Yeah,
keep them in your car, keep them in your wallet over the next 3 weeks, so that when you eat out or when you're talking to somebody or you just strike up and say, hey, you'll have them.
Right.
And if you don't have them in your pocket or in your wallet or purse or whatever it is you carry, then you won't have it. So the next, what is it, like 3 weeks, I think, from Sunday, 3 weeks or something? Yeah, I think it's 3 weeks from Sunday is Easter. So let's make this a 3-week on-mission trip right here in Pinellas County, and let's see lives change. And maybe after Easter, we'll sit here and go, guess how many gospel shares? Guess how many people came in? We could do it right here. We don't have to fly to Uganda. We don't have to fly to London. People need Jesus right here. So it's not either or. It's both and. It's all of the above all the time. And thank God we're a church that is trying to do that.
Right. Well, Pastor, I appreciate your time today. Thanks for just helping us understand and get on mission as a church. You do it well. And we're excited for this weekend as we continue our series. Very interesting phrase this week, I thirst.
Yep.
I'm excited to unpack that. I know here at Clearwater, Seminole, Eastlake, and Safety Harbor and Crystal Beach will all be out of the same text. So I challenge you. It's if you were
word number 5 from the cross. 2 words. We got to build a sermon on 2 words.
2 words. I'm ready.
But there's a lot there, and it'll be a great week. And as we have 3 more messages from this Words from the Cross series.
It's going to be a great weekend. We hope to see you at any of our campuses this weekend as we worship together. But until then, know you're being prayed for often, and we will talk to you here on the podcast next week. Have a great week.